Howdy gamers, it's Jester back at it again with another dog shit video. Rare Flannel Jester here, and what I was planning on actually doing today was that I wanted to compare my three favorite mice. Now, you've probably known previously that I've praised the Cooler Master MM710 as a god, but I think after what has been about a year of using it now, I have some revelations on why it may not actually be my favorite anymore, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. So, as you can see here, there are three different mice. As you can see on the left, this is the Razer Viper, this one in the middle is the Logitech G Pro, and this one on the right is the Cooler Master MM710. As you would know, about a year ago, I praised the Cooler Master MM710 as a god mouse. And I think, objectively speaking, it's still probably the best mouse that's on the table here. And I would also like to address one thing, it's its gunk. I'm sure that's what you'll immediately notice. This is after I spent probably about an hour really trying to clean it. To be honest, there was way more gunk on there than I would like to say. And this is way cleaner than it used to be, and right now I'm even going to show you a picture of a zoomed in area where I'm having trouble cleaning it out. And yes, that is, those are two little clipped nails you're saying. I'm not proud of that, but I'm just being honest with you. So I'm a fairly clean person. I'm not crazy clean, but I'm definitely not dirty. So, the things I really love about this mouse are that it's extremely lightweight, it's a smaller mouse, and it did everything right. As I've talked about previously, the skates are perfect, the cable's perfect, the switches feel good, I like the buttons on the side. It actually took me a little bit to get used to because of the way they protrude out. I was at the time an extremely heavy side button user. And I'm not joking, I literally had to callus my thumb because of how much I was using them, and that these cause a lot more pressure than what you're probably used to. Scroll wheel and the middle mouse button I used a lot. Because I had weird keybinds in Classic WoW, I actually ended up using about every single button on this mouse extremely frequently. The scroll, the middle mouse button, the side mouse buttons, both mouse buttons, a lot. And they were all really nice, and I like that a lot. One thing I initially thought I would like is the hex thing, and that it loses it a lot of weight. But the number one reason, and why I'll get into later why I actually replaced this mouse, and now my primary complaint, is that I understand you're probably going to lose quite a bit of weight from removing those holes. But it makes it a motherfucker to clean. It makes it so goddamn difficult. Now, I understand there's probably ways I could have went about cleaning it better, and I could have cleaned it longer, but I've spent so much fucking time in my life trying to clean this mouse up. Now, I'm not a very dirty person, but I'm a bigger guy, and I feel like I am more oily than most humans. And this fucking thing, obviously, has every single goddamn way to pick up oil possible. And really fucking hard to upkeep it. Honestly, that reason alone is what made me start looking elsewhere, because it makes me feel gross using this mouse now. I'm sure there's probably people that are going to shit talk me saying, oh, you just need to clean it better, you're just lazy, you're fat, you're dirty, but I'm really not. I'm fat, but I'm not really that dirty. I'm a fairly clean person. I get I could clean it out better right now, but honestly I couldn't be fucked because I just replaced it anyway, so I didn't really want to clean it that well. That's my primary complaint, and actually why I ended up replacing it. Also, something I feel like that's worth mentioning is that mice are extremely subjective. I think this mouse really showed me that. To where if I try to optimize my favorite mouse, then it would be this one. It has all of the things just done so well. But now it's coming into subjective territory where it's like, oh, turns out I don't like this whole shit. Also, the way it's shaped. As a person, I use or really prefer a small mouse because of how I hold a mouse, and I'm going to show another picture of that now. So, how I hold a mouse is I actually have it 45 degrees to an angle, and I have a weird claw grip on it. Why do I hold a mouse like that? I don't fucking know. You can fight me about it if you want. But I do. It's how I'm personally comfortable. The thing about this mouse is that when it would make contact with my hand was kind of awkward, because when I would bring it back, what I like a mouse to do is to hit the bottom side of my hand first. And for that to be able to happen with this mouse as I'm bringing it back, I would have to do a really aggressive claw grip. Way more aggressive than I would like. Whereas something with a way I can grip it better, it was easier. And that back would reach my hand sooner without having to awkwardly rub the top of my hand against this. And whenever I start kind of like gliding the bottom of my hand on this top area, it makes my control of it worse because it now rubs awkward against the top of my hand. Those are my primary complaints about that mouse, but still, it's probably the mouse I would recommend to most people. And it has been the one I have. However, I don't think it's for me personally. I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the next mouse. This is the Logitech G Pro Wireless. So, I think when this mouse came out, it was a really awesome wireless mouse, and it's still pretty fucking good, and I still bought one from around the time, that's why I still own one. But, I'm going to talk about the Razer one soon, and I will explain shortly why I think this mouse is no longer good. So you really loved this mouse, but I think it's about objectively worse than the other ones. It has a very similar form factor than the Razer Viper. It has roughly the same price range, yet it does some of the things kind of shittier. The way that is, I know this sounds fucking dumb, but I hate RGB. I want to have it all off at the same time. Whenever you have it off, it has this stupid fucking looking Logitech symbol. I don't want it there. It's fucking weird, but that doesn't really matter that much. Something that does matter a lot for me personally is that I'm kind of a retard, and I don't actually really like wireless mice. Now, I still use this for a laptop that I'm using recently. When I can, I almost always use a wired mouse. So, with this fucking mouse, whenever you have to plug the wire into it, well, they did some decent stuff to make it connect into it well and fit in very nicely. The cable feels shitty, and it's really hard to find a detachable micro USB bungee cable. I don't think it's even possible to get. I could be wrong, though. And I'm a bit retarded. I don't know if this is normal or not, but I don't remember to charge this mouse very much. Oftentimes, I'm always going to have to use it while it's charging, which means I'm annoyed by it when that happens. Fuck. Shouldn't have ate a goddamn burrito for breakfast. Fuck me. Also, I understand that this is what most mice are made out of that I remember, but it's worth mentioning that the whole thing has this, like, smooth plastic finish. It's just shitty for gripping for me. I don't like the feeling of it that much. Generally, just feeling it, I'm like, eh. It just feels like shitty plastic. Now, it feels like it's built well. I feel like I could probably throw it across the room and it would last. I'm not going to test it, so you can go fuck yourself. But for the most part, I think it's a pretty decent mouse. However, I really do think that the Viper did this and everything better. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that now. So, this is the Razer Viper. This is currently what I have been maining on my desktop. I really love this mouse, and I'll explain why. Well, actually, I'll talk about some bad shit first. The feet aren't quite as good as they are on usual skate stuff, but I don't think they're about bad enough to replace, if that makes sense. The feet are good enough, just not quite perfect. The cable, also, not a bungee cable. The cable's actually kind of shit. It's shit comparatively to this other stuff on the table right now. Obviously, having no fucking cable or having a bungee cable isn't quite that good, but it's still a decent cable. So much so that even when I'm using a bungee cable, I find that I use this right here. This is just a fucking cable lifter that I bought 2-3 years ago or something. So the cable is good enough to where if it's on a cable lifter, it doesn't fucking matter, which is good. So it's not a really shitty cable. So that part doesn't matter for me because the cable lifter removes that problem entirely, and you probably should be using a cable lifter anyways, because it's going to stop stuff like your mouse accidentally snagging on shit, and even with a bungee cable over time, it can start starting to grab at shit whenever you're pulling it up and down from the side of your desk. Whereas the bungee keeps your cable at the same place past that point. One thing about this mouse is that you'll notice this is actually plugged in right now. You might not have noticed that, but what you'll notice is there's no RGB. Not only is there no RGB, but there's no stupid fucking little logo. That's great. There's actually no fucking branding on the top of this. That's a big, big plus for me. And honestly, very surprising for Razer. So it has a very clean look, and I love it. Something I also want to mention about this mouse is that if you are ever interested in gaming on Linux, I recommend at least giving it a shot. I don't even load Windows virtual machines anymore. I don't even have a Windows dual boot. I'm exclusively on Linux. The Linux support for Razer is very good, and I'm surprised how well Razer's gotten right with it. They actually have open source Razer drivers for Razer products on Linux, which is really fucking cool of them. It's something they've actually had for a while, and it allows it so that way you can use third-party support very easily, which I think the biggest con of this mouse is actually Razer Synapse, which is notorious for being a sack of dog shit. However, on Linux, it's a non-factor. The drivers are open, and you can use third-party software that's pretty fucking good to interact with the mouse. So I was able to turn off the RGB on this. While I'm saying this too, the RGB not showing up on here and having no branding, I actually think is so that way the pulse would look better and not because they wanted to impress people that don't like RGB. I think they did it because it would look cooler if there was no little transparent symbol, because some people like having the pulse effect, and I think that looks cooler without the transparent symbol. And that's actually probably why they decided to not have that on this mouse, but regardless, I'm happy about it. Also, is that it has this really, really nice grip tape on the side, and this top material is what I would describe as kind of that nice grainy feel that you'll feel in something like double shot PBT keycaps. Hopefully that makes sense. And so the build quality feels amazing. All of it feels really great. It has a good sensor, and overall it just did so much shit right. And the parts it did bad, I don't really give a fuck about. So it's right now a really great mouse. Something I also feel like I want to mention is that if you want a wireless mouse that's something that's beneficial to you, there's a new glorious mouse coming out that's most likely going to be better than any mouse on this table. However, it might be out of stock for a long time and stuff like that, so it's probably not even worth mentioning, but it's going to be way better than this is, and it has RGB, which is fucking retarded, but whatever. Also, with this mouse, there is a wireless variant. I think you should really consider if you need wireless or not, because you actually probably fucking don't. If you're using wireless on a desk that you never fucking do anything on, you're probably retarded. Like, if your mouse is always on the same desk, what the fuck are you doing? Why is it wireless? Or if you're on a laptop at a setup you're going quite a few places on, then you'll see the difference. But you can suck my fucking nads if you think I'm going to pay $100 for a really good mouse to be wireless. The wireless and wired version of that's about $100 different with the nice charging dock, and I don't have any purpose for it. But if you do, there is an option for it, and it's still just as good of a mouse. Okay, so to wrap it up, I don't think this video is going to be that good. Hopefully it's good enough. I'm still trying to make my videos higher production quality, so this is kind of my first step into that. Hopefully this video was alright. I'm trying to record on my phone and talk through my computer microphone at the same time, which is more effort than I ever go through, just that alone. Appreciate it, gamers. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll try to answer. But yeah, peace. Have a good one.